Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to another edition of Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast. I'm Ralph Quattrucci.
I'm Sean Paul Murphy.
I'm Debbie Murphy.
I'm John Quattrucci.
I'm Drew Gould.
I'm Uncle Al.
And I'm special guest, Paul.
And there's Paul. That's
Hi,
a
Paul.
special guest.
Welcome,
now
Paul.
Special guest. I was going to say Sean, but he's our special guest. He's all of our special guests.
Okay.
And he's here to help. He's here to help Sean defend his movie tonight, which we won't talk about yet.
And he's got his work cut out for him.
He does. But before we start, we're going to do what did you watch this week? And let's start with John Quattrucci.
Well, you know, I made a mistake when I picked my movie last week, even though it was a great movie, Galaxy Quest. Because of Veterans Day, I should have picked something military. So over the weekend, I watched Sergeant York, which is, I love that movie. One of my favorite movies, Gary Cooper, directed by Howard Hawks. Just a great patriotic movie. Really like it a lot. Recommend it highly. But that's what I watched.
Good. Uncle Al, new voice.
Well, sir, I watched The Devil's Honey, which we will talk about later on a different episode.
Are you promoting your other podcast?
That's right.
Okay.
And then I did not watch much as I got a PS5, so I was playing PS5.
Oh, it didn't blow up on you?
It did not.
Oh,
because
good.
I
That's
know
good.
how to handle my equipment.
What about the
Excellent.
game?
Now.
That's right.
But I'm bummed. I wish I got to do the symbols, whatever. Debbie and Sean. Now, just so Paul knows, it's one choice per square. So these guys have to pick one.
Well, you know,
Except for
that's-
Drew.
We're flexible with that.
Drew rules.
Do what you want, Paul. You be you.
Slogger rules.
We watched the Ravens Patriots game.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry. That's too bad for
what
you.
a shocking game. I thought they were going to get smoked.
Yeah.
Is that a
How
good
about that monsoon?
The only thing really enjoyable about that game was the weather. I have not seen such horrible rain and mist at the end of that game.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, don't you feel like a switch was flipped when they had a shot to win the game? All of
Yeah.
a sudden, you couldn't see anything. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
That was a
that's
great
nice.
They kept warning all that this weather system was about to arrive. It was about to arrive.
Yeah.
And when
well-
it did, you could tell.
Al Michael kept throwing the radar up. He kept talking about the storm flowing in.
Yeah.
All right,
the
Paul.
Ravens-
Let's go to Paul. Paul, what do you got this week? Sorry, Drew. We'll
This
get back to
week,
you.
this week I watched bits and pieces of different things, but the one movie that I watched from beginning to end was the new Bill and Ted Face the Music. I finally got it from Redbox with a promotional coupon. It cost me 60 cents, but I gladly would have paid,
Nice.
$25 because I enjoyed it. It got off to a little bit of a sluggish start for me, but then it kicked in and it gave me all the feel good stuff that I was looking for, the nostalgia, the humor, and I really enjoyed
Everything you want from a Bill and Ted movie.
it. Exactly.
How are the actresses that play the daughters? Because I really like both of those actresses.
Oh, they're terrific. Everybody in the film is great. Everybody gets moments to
Oh,
shine.
good.
Yeah,
So some
and
of
the
the
woman-
characters that they bring back from the older movies get their scenes too. You know.
And the woman playing Ted's daughter pulled a great Ted off. That's
Absolutely.
Yeah, she was good. And the Weaving girl is great too. She's always good. I agree with you. She's fantastic in all her stuff. All right, Drew, what do you got? Take your
Well-
time, Drew, as much as you want.
Thank you. It's funny. There's two series that I'll talk about later, but I haven't finished them yet, so I'm going to finish them. One of them is A Teacher. The Kate Mara is a high school student having sex with her student. That's great so far. And The Queen's Gambit, which everybody is watching on Netflix, is fantastic. I want to finish it before we talk about it, if that's okay. But I have 2 episodes left, and it's just wonderful. So I did something that I did not expect to do anytime soon, which is I went to a concert on Sunday. My favorite band, the Punch Brothers, they did a concert on a website called Mandolin, and they were in Blackbird Studios in Nashville, and they did a live concert, and it was fantastic, and it was really funny because they kept talking in between songs about how weird it was, and they have a piece by Debussy that has significant space between the last 3 notes, and they were like, that's the first time nobody clapped before the last note of the song, and they're just wonderful, and that was really fun. And then the other thing that I watched was His House. That's that movie on Netflix. It kind of reminded me of The Babadook because it's about trauma and grief but in sort of through the filter of a horror film, because it's about two Sudanese refugees and they come to London and they get put in a house by Matt Smith, who's one of the Doctor Who actors. So that was a nice surprise. And there's something in the house with them. And how it unfolds and how you learn about their story and what you think you know about them and stuff is great. And the lead actress, I think her name is Wunmi Mosaku. I think that's her name. She's from Lovecraft Country and she's wonderful. So it's definitely, it's a horror movie and a thinker. So I would recommend that one, especially if you like the Babadook. If you're like my wife and you think the Babadook is not your thing, she didn't care for it either, but His House.
I enjoy the Babadook.
I'm going to look forward to seeing His House.
All right. I have nothing because I worked on my show that I've been working on for 5 months now, 3 months. We took a 1 hour show and opened it up to 2 hours. So I've had no time to watch anything else. So we'll review that when it comes out. It's 10 animals that might kill you. So someday we'll show that. So Sean,
And you've been building your empire.
oh, the In the Red Productions
In the red,
is growing.
yeah. I
Okay?
mean, this is getting
So we've
huge.
got Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
got Q It Up with the Q Brothers, and now
Yep.
we're going to add what are we calling it? Movie
Movie
Strange.
Strange.
Movie Strange.
Movie
That's
Strange.
a little cult.
I'm surprised no one took that name already.
It's a good name.
Well,
that's why. So
Cinema Strange was
coming
taken and Movie Blender was taken. So
Oh, I like that
Everything's
movie
taken.
blender.
that's all part of the In the Red Productions. So it's going to be great.
Ralph's
Sean-
a Ted Turner, this
So
stuff.
Now,
not
Paul,
Evil
we
Dead
say
2.
Sean brought the movie to the table because his podcast started on a pool table with a bunch of guys and ladies. So each one of us brings a movie to the table, and we all watch that movie, and then we discuss the movie.
Like the accused in the pool table.
Okay.
So,
Always brings it back. Sean, what movie did you bring to the
first
table
let me
today?
introduce Paul.
Oh, please do. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Paul Castiglia, unless you were speaking in La Lingua Mia Familia, in which it would be Paul Castiglia. And Paul is an old friend. He's a film historian. He's a film producer. He's a writer of comic books and animation. He's done Archie Comics and Thomas the Train. And he's the author of the upcoming book, Scared Silly, about classic horror comedies. So he's a multi-hyphenate joining us from the West Coast.
Wait,
And
back
why-
up a step. Name a couple horror comedies just so we know what that means.
Abbott and Costello
Oh,
meet
yeah.
Frankenstein.
Right. So the book, yeah. So the period I'm covering is the real classic period. So you're talking Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges, Little Rascals, Bowery Boys, Bob Hope.
Wow.
I'm going from the silent era through the mid '60s.
Okay.
So I'm not going past that. I mean, I'm very fond of things that happened in the '80s, which I think Phantasm helped usher in. But I'm going real. I'm stopping at Don Knotts, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Oh my God. All right.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, you're here to help Sean defend this film. Sean, what is your film?
My film is Phantasm. It's a film from 1979, a classic. It's about a 13-year-old boy named Michael whose parents died 2 years earlier, and he's worrying about his guardian, his 22-year-old brother, Jody, is going to abandon him and go on the road as a musician. His fears are compounded by suspicion that something nefarious is going on at the local funeral home cemetery where his parents are buried. And why don't we watch the trailer if we could?
Phantasm, the delusion of a disordered mind, a phantom, a spirit, a ghost. For nearly 4 decades it has been contained, but evil always has a way of breaking free.
Tommy's gone. It's hard to believe. It was a good idea not to let your little brother come to the funeral.
Yeah, I don't like this place.
Something weird is going on up there.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
What's wrong with you?
There's something up there. I saw it.
You got some kind of an overactive imagination or something?
I know you're not gonna believe this, but these things were here.
Oh, give me a break.
Okay, I believe you.
What we gotta do is lay that sucker out flat and drive a stake right through his goddamn heart.
You're gonna run that tall bastard straight down to hell.
You play a good game, boy. But the game is finished. Now you die.
Phantasm.
Don't fear.
Okay, and I brought Paul because, I've been accused periodically of bringing films to this because I wanted to see people's reaction to them and that they may not always like them. And this is a film I feel may fall into that category a bit. And I know Paul is a big fan of the film, so I brought him here to help me out on this. And first, let me defend the film.
Well, no, just try to describe the film for everybody.
Yeah, give us the story.
Good luck
I'm
with
glad.
it.
I'm glad they threw the definition on this. I don't know if this definition was on the original trailer
It wasn't.
because I never knew what Phantasm meant. Now I got it because of this HD trailer that Red Robot put up.
I actually watched some of the trailers after I finished it for 2 and 3, and they as far as I know, they haven't been released remastered, and they began with the same definition. That may be from back in the day, as the kids say.
Now, the definition is kind of necessary for a understanding of the film. But before I get into that, because that's part of what I find so interesting about the film is that it is not. If you look at it, I call it a right brain, left brain type of attitude towards this film, which I saw originally when it came out. It was, it hit me at the perfect time. But on the right brain, looking at it as a storyteller, a writer, a filmmaker, the film has some flaws. It definitely does not work as a completely linear film, in a traditional sense. The sequel, for example, is much more traditional film. But this film doesn't necessarily make narrative sense. You really have to take it at its own value. And that's why the definition is important, is that essentially it's part of it's a delusion. It's a nightmare. Costarelli in one of the interviews said that he's using phantasm and word the same way that Edgar Allan Poe would use it in his writings, as a nightmare. And because it's a nightmare, and it's really over the last week that I finally accepted the film on its own level. I thought what I really like about this film is that it's perhaps the best American film, in my opinion, about the adolescent fear of death and the things of death, the fear that those things inspire, and the accompanying sense of abandonment that death brings. And I think there are some brilliant moments in the film as a filmmaking piece, but because of the narrative way it unfolds, it isn't clear. And I often thought that the genius of the film was unconscious, that Costarelli, lucked into hitting the emotion right, but, was wonky on the story, because I kind of refused to accept the ending of the movie, and this is something where I have spoilers in. And I even told Debbie the ending before there, and it still really made her mad when it happened, So, and it's, because, I've tried to show Debbie this film many times, and, I really I compelled her to watch it the last week, and she really had trouble with it. And then she was getting into it the last time, and then it made her really angry at the end. But then at literally 5 a.m. the next morning, she woke me up because she's like, Sean, I finally get this movie. So she woke me up at 5 a.m. to tell me that she finally got it. But, I guess we're telling spoilers. So the reality is you have a kind of a strange narrative where this kid is following around his brother. He sees a weird mortician, the tall man, and he's nervous about this, but he's predominantly nervous about his brother, that his brother is going to leave him. Their parents are dead, and he's worried that his brother is going to leave him and go back on the road. And so it's this death and abandonment. But, you know, people who are dead are back. And
well, he does see the tall man pick up a heavy casket.
Yeah.
Basically by himself that 6 pallbearers just put in the car, right? Or put next to the car. So he's in the binoculars. He does see that.
Yeah. So I
we
mean,
established that something is funky.
But is anything that happens in the movie real at all is the question. You know, I've heard a number of people, I pretty much read every critical review of it. A couple of people actually compared this movie to David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, which is, oh my God. That's the film that I was reading a couple critics list that says so far it's the best film of the 21st century is David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. And I'm like, I got to watch that again. And I did. And I'm like, I still don't get it. You know, I like this one better than Mulholland Drive. But in the film's defense, I think it's shot really well. I never noticed how well it was shot until I got the Blu-ray. But I really, there's a lot of things I really like about this. I really like the editing. I'm curious what you'd think about it, Ralph. But I like how they hold on to shots. And I really like the reveal when they go from the woman to the tall man, because it starts on a kind of a close up with soft edges. And then it pushes in. I mean, it cuts in. It doesn't push in, but it doesn't do a big push in. It's like a 10 to 12% push in, which also has like soft edges. And then it's slightly more push in to the shot of the tall man. And little touches like that, I think, are really effective. And they repeat that later in the movie when they kill Reggie, if he's actually dead, if he was killed.
Can I interject something here?
Yeah.
And this will also increase viewership. I want everyone who's watching this to watch the podcast and enjoy our conversation, and then I want you to watch it again and just watch John. Just watch John, because I've been doing that the whole time. It's fantastic. Through the trailer, I love it. I love it. I'm not going to be shocked at what he shares with us at this point, but I love it.
I'm sorry. I need to be more.
No, you don't need to apologize, because
I'm a bad poker player. Wait a minute.
Yeah, this is a movie that has strong reactions, and I think that's whether you like it or not.
Yes, I'm amazed at the good editing, because they held on shots long. I think those were all accidents.
Well, you see, Ralph, funny thing is, what I thought is that, you know, as I've watched this movie since like 1980, I really did think that this was all accidental, but there's just too many good accidents in it. But I really like his shot selection and how long he holds on to these shots, because it's atypical of a horror movie of this period. And I want to tell you something. There are going to be people here, I'm just going to go out on a limb, that aren't going to like this. But although Debbie and I didn't watch anything specifically over the last week, what I did was I went on Tubi and I was watching a ton of films from 79 and 80, horror movies that I thought were similarly themed, you know, things of death and all, like Mortuary and Mausoleum. And my God, those films are all crap. I mean, I saw them all and I enjoyed them back then, but it's like none of them, in my opinion, came close to holding up. They all had the obligatory like nude shot right near the beginning, much like this film did. You know, it was the late 70s, early 80s. You had to start with that.
Hey Sean, wasn't Coscarelli like 18 when he made this movie? He was really young.
He was much older than that. He was like,
he wasn't 18.
He was 23. He was 17 when he made his first movie.
But this was already his third feature.
And the first so young to be making like a feature film at 23.
Well, Citizen Kane was made at 25, and I compare this kind of.
Okay, not everyone's Orson Welles, dude. Come on.
What? And not only that, Orson Welles had that crew behind him, you know, and he had Herman Mankiewicz behind him as well.
No, you know, I poo-pooed the editing in this shot, but there are shots in here that I was genuinely impressed with. There's car shots that he does when the car's going away from the camera towards the mansion or whatever, the mausoleum that they had. Okay. He loves shooting cars, you could tell, because there's always a logo of the Hemi engine or something, wheels. So there was some, I agree. And he's a friend of Sam Raimi, right? Sam Raimi was down there on the set a lot, I heard, or something. Maybe this one of the sequel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had an Evil Dead. I mean, okay. I watched all three of them last night. After watching this one, I went and saw. Then I watched 2 and then 3. Don't know why I did that. So I may be mixing all my stuff together. I remember seeing this at the drive-in movie theater, probably in '79. And all I remember is the orb was the most. That's all I remember is about the movie then was the orb. So I'm watching this now for the first time since 1979. And that orb is hardly in there. It's in there for 2 shots and one take out of a guy. And now I was impressed with the shots of the orb when you see in the reflection of the tall man in the orb. I thought you're right. Some of the shot choices were very artistic. The things they were doing with whatever budget they had. And I guess the orb was actually shot in camera. They would have a pitcher throw it to get it to fly down the thing. But I watched the whole movie and I'm like, okay, this whole movie was a dream, right?
Or was
Ultimately, or well, they end all their sequel. They all end the same way. It's like, was it? Did they all? Reggie dies 15 times. Spoiler alert, and all this stuff, and he keeps coming back. So it's always a dream. And he did something like he at the end of 1. Where he's playing the guitar by the fireplace and the kid goes upstairs and the kid gets taken through the mirror. Well, they start 2 with that same scene. And then Reggie says, I don't even know if that happened. Did that really happen? I'm not sure that happened after he blows up the whole. Paul, help me with this. Are you an expert on these movies? I don't understand.
Well, okay.
I don't understand why it's so popular.
Look, I mean, you're getting into the sequels. And
okay,
I've watched the sequels. I like revisiting the characters, but I feel like the lightning in the bottle, how much of it is accidental and how much of it was intended, that's in the first movie, gets a little undone in the sequels, because in the first movie, things that are clearly meant to be surreal and leave you guessing as to whether they're really happening or part of the dream, they get sort of pseudo explanations in the sequels, and those pseudo explanations don't always hold up.
Don't add up.
And they kind of just make it more muddled. And so I think the key, I mean, if you want my opinion of just the first film,
Please.
It's because, all right, so I'm 54 years old. So when Star Wars came out in 1977, I was 11. So I had the Target logo on my forehead. I was the kid they made Star Wars for. Then 2 years later, in 1979, I'm 13, which is the age of Michael in Phantasm. Now, I didn't see the film because under 17 not admitted, but a friend of mine somehow taped it off a cable like 2 years after it came out. And we watched it, so I was like 14 or 15 when I first saw it. So I still felt like I was like in Michael's headspace, right? The kid. And back then independent films for some reason seemed to get onto cable quicker, and even like by 1984, I remember watching it on a local independent TV station. That's how quick this thing went from the theater to, it wasn't like an MGM or, a Universal or something like that. It was quickly moved through the pipeline.
Yeah,
So,
AEI, right? AEI.
Yeah. So anyway, to me, it's like, I feel like I knew that kid. I knew that kid because of when I first saw the movie. I was frightened to death of the tall man. The tall man gave me nightmares for years after I saw that movie. And it actually helped me. The movie helped me dealing with horror movies in general, modern day horror movies, and also dealing with the horrors of life. And I know Coscarelli has said that part of the reason he made the movie was to sort of explore this kind of Americanized version of how we deal with death. It's kind of this pageantry, it's this production number. It's, you get the body kind of, embalmed and cleaned up and put on view for everybody to see. And there's like a ceremony, and it's this whole thing. And for kids, that's weird. We all grew up, losing aunts and uncles and things like that. My mom had 14 brothers and sisters, so I grew up with it a lot, you know. So yeah, so it's kind of, it connects on that level. And what I like about it is that there's a lot of shots in the movie that are from Michael's point of view. And so in those shots, it almost becomes hyper focus what he's seeing. And even if he's actually seeing it or it's an illusion or what, it's his point of view. So when he sees the tall man, you know, come up towards the Reggie's ice cream van and he's affected by the cold. Yeah, it's one of those shots like Sean said, like he holds on some stuff. And he's holding because he's like wanting you to think, holy crap, this kid's seeing stuff that scared him out of his mind. Same thing when he lifts up the coffin. Same thing when he's in the curio shop and he sees the little photograph and it's the Victorian era picture of the tall man and he actually turns his head and looks at Michael. It's like this whole thing. And so like, it's very impactful, I thought, you know, the way he shot that and the way he wanted to express that. And then as Sean mentioned, there's those abandonment issues with his older brother. Personally, I think it captures the 70s, the late 70s. It captures that thing between an older brother and a younger brother really well. It's got a lot of humor in it. And it's like, it's true humor. It's not like tacked on, you know, chintzy joke, comic relief. It's like the things brothers would say to each other. It just happens to be hilarious because of the situation. But it's like true, like it rings true to me. So I liked all that about it. It's horror, it's science fiction. There's a little bit of action movie in it, which is interesting because Dawn of the Dead is the same year. And I always think of that as half horror, half action. I mean, there's a lot of action shots in Dawn of the Dead, but I digress. But it's also a boy's adventure. And, you know, in this day and age, we can't really say that anymore because, you know, we're at the point where we're realizing, oh, you know, boys and girls can have the same adventures, right? But back in the late 70s, a boy's adventure was, yeah, I'm going to, you know, ride a motorcycle and team up with my brother and his friend and get some shotguns and guns out and take on an evil, you know, demon mortician. You know, that's a boy's adventure story, you know? And it just hit on all those levels. So for me, it was like a transformative, it sounds very weird, but this movie was a transformative experience for me because it helped me get through fears of things, including modern day horror movies, and just helped me to kind of understand, you know, how things work in some ways.
And Paul, I just want to add, I know you're currently reading my book, but my current novel, Chapel Street. Hey, look, there's a poster.
Ding, ding, ding.
And I think, you know, you may see that there is a lot of phantasm in that book in the sense that this is in Chapel Street, it's the story of a guy and his older brother, you know, and talking to his dead older brother, which is essentially what's happening in Phantasm too, though you don't find out till the end. And you know, Chapel Street is very much about the abandonment, death, and the things of death. You know, it spends a lot of time in cemeteries and all. So, and like you, I was hit at the right time, as I mentioned earlier. This was soon after. I mean, people died, you know, all throughout my life, but in 1979, my grandfather died, and that's the first funeral where like I was involved in like all of the not the planning or anything, but I was there for every step of it. You know, when you're really young, at least in our family, you don't go to them. You know, they lock you away. You know, so you don't go to the funeral at all. You're off doing other things. And but when my grandfather died in '79, this was the first time I went through the death experience. So this film really spoke to me on that level of death and things of death and the horror of death and the mystery of death and the permanence of separation. So
okay, I want to hear from the other Drew and John. Anybody want to jump in and just before
I'd kind of like to hear Drew's point of view on this one before I chime in.
Well, all right. So I have seen this movie before. just once, like in college. I'm 44 years old, so that was quite a while ago. And I was terrified of horror movies growing up, so I didn't start watching these movies until I was in college. I went to the local video store on campus in Philly, and they had Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Phantasm and The Thing and all these great movies, most of which are among my favorite movies. This movie, I don't like it. I don't hate it. It's one of those where the story of the making of the movie is a neat thing too, because they made a movie for $300,000 and it made, I don't know, 30 times that, 100 times that, whatever. It's been a huge success. And I always like that story. You've got Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi, you've got Kevin Smith's Clerks, and it's not just the youth, like you said, John, about Orson Welles. It's the outside, build it yourself kind of thing. So I have a lot of respect for that. And I really appreciate what Paul said about how it connected with you emotionally, that was the boy's story, that was because I felt like I was watching, outside of whether I liked the movie or not, it felt like an authentic 1978 neighborhood. Here's a kid and his brother, and there's been tragedy and all that kind of stuff. Now, that said, the only things that I remembered from the movie were the scene where the tall man picks up the casket, because that's quite striking. And then my reaction to the other thing, it wasn't that I made fun of the movie, but when I found out that and spoiler alert, that the Jawa looking slaves were actually their dead friends squished by gravity in another dimension, I started laughing because I was like, that's ridiculously ambitious for this tiny little movie. Now we have space travel and all this, and it's ridiculous. So I commend that. And I have a soft spot for Reggie the Ice Cream Man. I think he's the sort of the most indie film actor feeling guy in the movie. He also reminds me of Jackie Martling and Dean Norris. But overall, it's not a good movie that I like. It's not a movie that I would recommend. It's one of those movies where I go, it's not for me. I get the appeal of it, but I don't find it scary. I don't find it super interesting. I believe I've seen Phantasm and Phantasm 2 and not gone on to see the other ones. But that said, Bubba Hotep by the same director is one of my favorite movies. Right. That's a hysterical movie. So I guess somewhere in there is where it all began, that this guy's sensibility came from, because Bubba Hotep is a movie that takes different stuff that really doesn't make sense and shouldn't fit together and just comes off in a wonderful way. So Phantasm, I don't like it, but I respect it.
Well, one thing about, talking about the story of the story is that, the kid, Michael, who played Michael, was 13 when they started making it, and they shot it over the course of a year, and he was growing up. Because if you look at the picture right behind Paul's head of them in that room, he looks distinctly older in there than he does in some of the shots that you see earlier in the film.
That's true. And in fact, to bring it back, because we've name dropped Star Wars a couple of times, that was a coincidence with the Jawa thing. And somebody called Coscarelli up one day, one of his friends, after going to the movies, said, I just saw a coming attraction for a movie. It's got your little characters in it. So it was just a coincidence. And then later on, this remaster that we saw the trailer from, it's J.J. Abrams, giving the backing, the money, and the resources and the equipment to do the remaster. And of course, he directed some Star Wars. So there's this weird tie back that keeps happening with Star Wars. But yeah.
Oh, I do want to say one thing about Reggie. To me, one of the most things that always caught me, and one other thing that makes this different, because you see all the Friday 13th and all those films from the same period, but none of those films had that scene where Reggie walks up with the guitar and plays the guitar with Jody. I mean, to me, that is just a genuinely endearing scene, and Reggie could really play, and it really looked like two guys who really knew each other, who had a relationship.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You okay? But that whole
Reggie
go ahead,
he had a
Debbie.
relationship. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so too, Debbie.
He drives up in his truck. He's playing his guitar, and Reggie comes out and he plays without tuning his guitar. And I was thinking, that's really odd. Nobody shows up in a
ice cream truck
and pulls out the guitar without tuning it. It's gonna sound terrible. And then later in the scene where they're on the ship, he's the tuning fork.
Well, they show that whole.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
what do you call it?
foreshadowed a little bit.
Chekhov's gun. He tuned his guitar after to show his two fingers doing the doop.
Yep.
Well,
All right, John. Wait, no, stop. John, please.
Well, I have to say, I thought I had seen this movie, but after watching it, I realized I haven't, because I definitely would have remembered this movie had I seen it. I think what I read about this, they wanted to make Something Wicked This Way Comes originally.
Right.
That's what they want. Him and Reggie, I think it was. And they couldn't get the rights to it because Disney bought the rights. So he had this dream where the arms came. He was lying in bed and the arms grabbed him. That's kind of what led to this. So there's a 3-hour version out there that I think I would like to see, because this movie made 0 sense to me from start to finish. It meant nothing made sense at all in this entire. The acting was horrible. The line readings were horrible. The special effects, I know it was a low budget, but when he opened up that box and that little stuffed animal bug with the big teeth was sitting there, and then they pantomime it, taking them all over the place. I'm like, what the hell is this movie about?
Screamed.
That's a dream.
Oh my God,
It's all a
I
dream.
laughed my ass off.
It's a
So
dream.
What the hell is that? And
It's
the
a dream.
finger in the box, doing this thing. But then the girl, the lavender girl, right? They're about to have sex. All of a sudden, they do this one insert with this girl with gigantic boobs that her body didn't look anything like the girl in lavender, and it was just inserted. And then she didn't want to do the topless scene. That's why.
That's a feature, not a bug.
And then
that's a feature.
The when they go to the spaceship, I don't know what the hell that was, but the dimensional port between the things, he goes in and he's grabbing him by the belt. This movie made no sense to me. The little kid was a psycho stalker. That's what he was doing the whole movie. Then at the end, you find out he dreamt the whole thing, or did he? Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this. Okay, let me back up. The ball. Big deal about the ball, the orb, right? When you think about this movie, you think about the tall man, you think about the orb. So I'm thinking, oh man, this orb is going to be all over the place in this movie. It's in it for about 22 seconds. And the second time it shows up, they just blow it away. So I'm like, that's it? Now,
and it only kills the guys working with the tall man.
And that was good. When the blood's squirting out, I thought that was good. When they show the drill through the head.
Right.
But I will say that the character of the tall man is pretty iconic. And I think it's a good bad guy. But I got to be honest with you. This was a movie that I paused 3 times because I was bored stiff. There was maybe a couple of scary moments, where they jumped at you, but it was not a scary movie. And I just, when it was over, it was like Chinese food, I knew it was going to be, I was going to forget about it pretty quickly. I just didn't think it was a very good movie. I would like to see the longer version because I think it's got to make more sense than this movie did. It was jumping all over the place. No. And it just made no sense to me. So,
but the tagline on the original movie poster was, "If this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead."
What does that say about?
You might have to check your pulse.
Maybe. I will tell you, your defense of it was far better than the movie itself.
The only time I jumped is that scene. It's in the preview where he slaps the guy on the shoulder and says, "The funeral starts now."
Right.
That's the only time I jumped. Al, jump in here.
That was real too. That
what was real?
That scene was real in terms of the way they shot it. He actually did scare.
Oh,
the younger guy.
I did like the
real because he came in from behind.
The music was reminiscent of Halloween. That kind of, I did like that.
That's the one place I jumped in the whole film.
Yeah.
Al, come on, jump in.
I do want to say I learned to play it on the guitar, the music.
Oh, really?
Did you tune the guitar first?
No, don't tune it. It'll let in the aliens.
Don't tune it. Hey, Groucho didn't tune his guitar in horse feathers.
Okay, Al, let's go.
Wait,
wide open.
Okay. I like Phantasm. I don't know what John's talking about. He clearly can't watch indie films or even understand them.
Thank you, Al.
I can't watch bad films, Al.
You can't. You can only stick to high budget Hollywood stuff, apparently.
Oh, please.
I probably saw Phantasm 1 a long time ago. I don't really remember it that well, other than the tall man and the flying ball, obviously. But I rewatched the entire series a couple years ago, and I I get what Sean and Paul are saying, and I think Phantasm 1, for me, I got it more when I watched it a second time. So I think if I keep watching the movie, I will get into it more and will appreciate it more. I don't think John would be willing to spend the time with it to really get into it. But
he just said he'd give it another 3 hours. What are you talking about?
I don't think he would. He would
It's gotta
pause
make
it
more
like 30
sense in
minutes
this
into
one.
it. But I think the theme is iconic. The tall man is iconic. The ball is iconic. I love as the series progresses that you can tell that it's shot in different time periods. You have a 70s film, you have an 80s film, you have a 90s film. I guess maybe the fourth one was late 90s, early 2000s. I love how that works. My ranking would be 2, 1, 4, 3, and 5. And I know if John watched 5, he would absolutely hate it because it's more of the surrealist, like, is Reggie coherent or incoherent?
You mean like the movie?
Yeah.
That's one of the things, since you bring up 4 and 5, for John, a lot of the 3 hours that you're looking for, some of that shows up in the fourth one because he had no budget on the fourth one. So he was able
used footage, the unused footage?
He used unused footage. He built it into the fourth one. He built it into the fourth one. And the fifth one is part of one of my problems with the sequels, is because they go away from it being the kid Mike's story into Reggie's story, and it kind of
Reggie ended up becoming the lead, kind of, right?
Yeah, I mean,
well, he was look, he's like Ash. He's like Ash.
Yes.
Right. You know what? I got a total Ash vibe from Reggie, and as a matter of fact, the series that Bruce Campbell was doing now, Ash, where he's following, right? That's I felt like that was Reggie's character was a precursor to that, because Reggie was the thread throughout all the films, which I didn't expect. I thought he was the ice cream guy was a throwaway character. He became the main guy.
Yeah, he's kind of a precursor to how Ash shows up. It's kind of a precursor to the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I haven't seen Supernatural, but I've heard there's some echoes in the Supernatural TV show.
I mean, he has the best car ever made. The Barracuda
thing. That's how you know it's a 70s movie, because they had great cars.
Well, and also 13-year-old kid was driving that car.
He actually learned. I was listening to now normally I tell you, when I watch a film or even recommend one for the podcast, I do not listen to the commentary tracks, because I don't want to know why they did what they did. Because I just want to accept the film as the experience and all. But I will say I did research this one, and I did listen to the commentary track and all, mainly because I was trying to figure out why the hell he made certain choices. But he didn't always say. He talked more about the shots and all, rather than he talked more about the hows than the whys. But he did say that Michael did learn how to driving that Barracuda, and I couldn't think of a better way.
Well, I love that he gets out of the car and he pulls the wrench out of his back pocket, and he's getting in there, and the headers, and the brother's just Jody. Is that his name, Jody?
Yeah, Jody.
With the leather jacket and oh my God! Honestly, I think. Go ahead.
No, another thought about seeing it at the age that I did, 14, 15 years old. How am I not going to love a movie where a kid's locking in his room and he figures out he can put a thumbtack?
That was cool.
I was just going to say that was a great.
Blow the door off.
That was a good scene. But again, it's a dream, right? So anything can happen.
That's the problem. Like it has one of those. It has one of those movie endings that I really. It doesn't matter what the movie is that I don't like. Like The Descent, the American ending, where you think it's over and then boo. And then it kind of all means nothing. Or Nightmare on Elm Street 2, when everything is fine, and then suddenly Freddy's arm comes out of the door, and the bus is in the desert, and all that. So now it's
in Nightmare on Elm Street 1 when her mother gets sucked through the door. It's is
that the first one?
Yeah, it's the exact same ending.
Oh, Friday the 13th ends with it's all that whole and Carrie. Remember Carrie when the arm comes out of the.
Yeah, Carrie. The thing is with those endings is that like they don't satisfy me. Just in general, I just think that's kind of a boring boo, ending. And horror movies can have amazing endings. Like if you keep watching The Descent for another minute in the original cut, you have a real ending and it means something. But this movie ended already that it was all a dream, which you're like, huh? And then it does the boo ending. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I don't know if the people who made it know what happened, which makes me a little concerned that I don't really, should I even bother to find out? Like, is there anything to find out? If I enjoyed it, that's nice. But they may have pulled a lot of story together over the next 4 movies, but they definitely didn't have it together in the first one.
And the other thing I want to know is,
Debbie, we haven't heard from Debbie. Debbie, I want to know what you think.
Well, Sean loves this movie, so I hated this movie when he showed it to me. Like we were married. How long?
I probably showed it to you before we were married, just to know whether I was going to marry you.
Well, I could tell you it was torture for me at that time, and I think I probably fell asleep. And then I watched it, but I really didn't get it. And then we watched it Saturday night, and I don't like to spend Saturday night at our house. I mean, I like to go out or something, do something. I mean, just to drive around. But this film, I hated it, and I couldn't understand what the heck does Sean see in this movie? What does Paul see in this movie? What is it? Why do I hate it so much? And when you hate something so much, I mean, really despise it, like torture, like, can I go to bed now? And no, you have to watch it. You have to stay up, So we watched it, and, I thought about it, and then I was Sunday morning, I think.
Yeah, 5 a.m.
5 a.m. And one of the clues was when Sean said, I said, what does that mean, Phantasm? And he said, it's from Edgar Allan Poe. And it dawned on me, through the night, I was, it's a dream. Everybody has had a dream about the tall man and the tall man turning into trees, and you're running and you're pulling, and I mean, it's a common dream. And also, so many things in that film were familiar dreams about a funeral, right? And we're all afraid of dying to some extent. I think you don't know what that next step is. You kind of know because if you have a belief, but for sure. And at the time when you're going to die, that is pretty scary. Like it's weird, because you're alive. We go to cemeteries a lot, and the cool thing about it, well, you got to face the reality. We're all going to end up there. Maybe not in a cemetery. Maybe we'll be cremated. I don't know. But that's a reality. And you can't run away from it. It's good to face it. And to
this movie show that all to you? This is the movie that explains that.
And then when you realize the purpose of films, I like John, I like to be uplifted in a film, but sometimes downlifted is just as impactful on our lives, our secret lives, where, we don't really talk about that sort of thing, but we all experience it, I'm sure, right? Everybody thinks about death.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just wondering if this is nostalgia, like when the fact that Abrams restored this stuff, and you always hear about Steven Spielberg or John Carpenter looking back at old horror films, and that's what's fueled their whole why they make this. Sam Raimi obviously is a friend with this guy, and I think produced the second one, or was at the set or something. Is this not retroactive nostalgia? Like you're looking at it now in your adult brain, and you're throwing meaning on something that the guy never meant to. You really believe that he was trying to make a movie about?
Well, that's why
abandonment, and just because he's saying, I don't want my brother to abandon me, he is showing mismatched boobs on a woman. I mean, what's the message there? And like the grandmother scene, we haven't talked about that scene where he goes to the.
That's a Dune ripoff. He must have read Dune before he.
Oh yeah, that's what. The hand in the box.
Yeah,
and Fear's the mind killer and all that stuff. Yeah, that
like
was definitely a
so. You're putting a lot of meaning on something that I think the guy was just throwing shit together.
Ralph, isn't that what art is?
Why I call it unconscious brilliance. I only really.
No, I think Stanley Kubrick does conscious brilliance, right? Yeah. He plans everything so you get that emotion. I think, yes, this was an accident that you guys are turning into this brilliant, metaphor of death and life. And
isn't art what you project onto it anyway? Like, why does it matter if it's a happy accident?
I think that's a fair perspective. I mean, if you
is it a good? The question is it a good movie?
Well, no, but the question you asked, did he intend all this stuff? And my answer to that would be, does it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if Debbie got something out of the movie that's different than what you got out of the movie,
Agreed. I agree
that's
with
a
that.
legitimate thing. Objectively, in many ways, technically speaking, it's not a good movie. And some of the stuff that looks cool is a happy accident.
And you can
But
get
it did
away with
resonate
any
people on some level.
And you can get away with anything if you ultimately say the whole thing's a dream. We can do whatever we want in the film. Guys are flipping over. Guys are flipping over in automobiles.
Right.
By the way,
I think
David Lynch never take
the creation process for sure is slipshod in this movie. I'm not, and I love the movie. I'm going to say it's flawed as hell and there's things that are totally messed up and don't make sense. But as somebody who's, a creative for a living, I know sometimes meaning comes accidentally, sometimes it is through accident. I do stand by the themes of death and abandonment. I think are on purpose with him because they're throughout the whole movie. The dream stuff and a lot of the other stuff and the box and don't fear and fortune teller and all that. It's all just to put in kind of spooky elements to give you images to stick in your mind. But I do think that he did have that through line in his head about the death, the funeral home, the pageantry of the funeral, and abandonment. I do think those things were purposeful. I can totally go with you that a lot of the other stuff is totally accidental and maybe not even should be in there at all.
Well, I do think, and if you look at, and I'm not asking you to go and watch Mortuary and Mausoleum and all, but those films are just existing horror films just to try to scare you. And like when the horror films that like Al was brought to the podcast in the earlier days, when he was Harbinger of Death Al, or Harbinger of Doom Al, like Hellraiser and like particularly Martyrs, which was like a film I'll never watch again. But I think those films were really about something, as opposed to like Friday the 13th. I like the first film. I think I like 3 as well, and like 7. I don't know which other one. But they're really not about anything. And I don't think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about anything.
Well, I disagree with that, Sean. But I think what separates this is like this doesn't feel like an exploitation film. There's like meaning to be had there, whereas like maybe Mausoleum and the other movies you're talking about, they were only made to like make a buck off a trend. Like they're just pure exploitation trash. Whereas it feels like this one, like Coscarelli actually thought about what he was doing. Maybe he wasn't successful in shooting everything or laying it out narratively, but there is meaning that you can project onto it and get something out of it other than just pure exploitation trash, which is just, it can be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I love my pure exploitation trash, but this, I think, rises to a level that's higher.
I agree.
I really... I can't tell you how many times I've watched this film since I saw it in 80 or 81, but, dozens of times. And I've really fought against, the narrative structure of the film because I kind of I like it. I hate the ending. I don't think the ending works. It's a dream, but then it's not a dream. It's like, it just didn't feel right. But now, in a part because of what Paul said earlier, the definition of what the film's title sort of gives it away, that we're not supposed to, that this is not a linear, logical film. And I think the title indicates that this was the filmmaker's intent, was to give us something that was strange. And one of the things I was really watching, because I did watch it like 3 or 4 times, every time Debbie started to watch it and stopped, I continued watching it. So, but like, I wanted to make sure, like, the girl who goes in, was that the daughter of the of the, you know, the grandmother
Tell her.
who dies at the mausoleum, who screams. And then because all these, you know, because there's another blonde that looks just like her.
Yeah,
who
that's a
comes in
problem.
later in the film. And I was like, is that the same actress? Is that the same, supposedly, you know,
No, he
one of the two women
he did that on
actually-
purpose
Yeah,
so that you would throw your thoughts about how people are all this. Come on, this is what I mean. He's making mistakes that you guys are like.
But it
Didn't
wasn't a
Reggie
mistake.
say none of them
Yeah,
died? They
the
broke a
mistake
window
was
and ran out the
casting
window. I
actors
think that was a
were
throwaway
playing-
line.
Which is the same, the guy who directed Days of Heaven, what's his name? Terrence
Terrence Malick.
Yeah. Like I found Thin Red Line almost incomprehensible because the two lead actors both had Southern accents and they both looked identical. You know what I mean? So it was sort of like, and they were all flashbacks. And because they were speaking in the same accent, it was like, whose flashback is this? You
Well,
know?
listen, I got confused from the start because when I read the description, it said teenagers go up against an evil force, a tall man, right? Teenagers. So I'm looking at Jody. Okay, maybe Jody's 18, 19. And then Reggie walks in. He's like 57 years old, still driving an ice cream truck. And I'm going, what? Okay, he's not is he the teenager? Who are the teenagers here? Obviously Mike is a teenager. He looks like he's a teenager, right? But Reggie
he
threw me
drives.
off. And then Reggie becomes the thread throughout all the it's like,
Well, you know, the thing, just the truth of it is that beyond, you know, the tall man, Mike, Jody, Reggie, and I guess you could say Tommy too, all the other characters that are in this movie, they're just all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no real continuity to them. Myrtle, the housekeeper, shows up for 2 seconons.
One thing he
Right.
should have.
You know, and that's it. You know, so yeah, he didn't.
Well, we knew it was Tommy
go
because
beyond
he
those
did that
characters.
when they see Tommy was driving the car when he was squished, right?
Yeah.
And the only reason it was Tommy because they cut to Tommy, like, you know, flash.
But that
Oh,
was
that's Tom.
That's him.
But you know, he does those flashbacks all the time throughout the entire movie. I mean, when you think about like looking at the coffin flashback when he's talking to the fortune teller, he's flashing back to something that was literally in the previous scene.
Right.
You know, because he went from that cemetery scene to him talking to the fortune teller. So he's flashing back to the previous scene.
And then is that scene where what's her name? The blonde woman. What's her
Lavender
name?
lady.
Lavender hiding behind the tree, the little twig of a tree. When
Right.
Tommy, no, Jody's walking. Come on. That's all on purpose, or was that?
Well, here's the
Is he-
thing.
it's-
Now, this is what I like about him as a filmmaker. So, okay, you go to the flashback scene. So instead of cutting, you know, he's like does the what the F thing, which they don't show the dialogue for. When he's
Galaxy
talking
Quest.
to the fortune teller, and then instead of cutting back from him putting the binoculars down, they go to a shot of him riding the motorcycle, which is like totally inappropriate for the purpose of the film, because he's really telling what scared him at the cemetery. And then they're going to a cutaway before they cut back, which on one hand would seem like a mistake. But I really found it really brilliant. And just him riding that motorcycle and the sound effect of it.
Yeah.
Is-
And I like when the 6-foot stunt guy was on the motorcycle at one point with
What,
the short
so-
hair. That was awesome.
No, I will
What was
say
the
this.
director saying?
I will say this. I
He
was
said it wasn't
fascinated.
Tom.
I was fascinated because I watched the 2 sequels right after. Okay? Because there was something aesthetically pleasing about the movies. I do like the way he shot the cars. Reggie, that character, I started just like enjoying Reggie as a character.
Reggie's the man.
So I have
What
to
about the
I have
tall
to
man?
give him that.
Angus
But-
Trim is incredible.
But if I
too.
just take this movie
Yeah.
by itself and remembering that I saw it in 1979, it had to have horrified me then for some reason. But you look at it now and it's like there's no gore in the movie.
There's
Yeah,
no
oh.
gore in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, there is.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, maybe you need to see it.
I'm going to now. If there's no gore, I'm in. But so I did appreciate the aesthetics of the shots, like especially when I looked at the orb and he's reflecting the people that are looking at the orb, including the one guy who gets it on the face and you can still see the reflection of the guy in the orb. I thought that's good filmmaking.
Yeah.
And no, I think that's what I meant before when I'm just impressed by how they can get so much done. They're so ambitious with no money. I mean, there's
He rented. Did you read the IMDb?
Yeah, he rented
He rented the equipment on a Friday, so he had it through the weekend.
Right. I mean, that's
brilliant.
Werner Herzog shot a Gera Wrath of God with cameras he stole from film school. So and like disappeared to South America, and then came back with a movie and returned it. So I mean, I just
with a maniac.
Right. Well, exactly. Well, yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other story.
Oh my God!
Class.
But did you guys ever see Room 237?
Yes,
that is. So that's a documentary, John, about people who watch The Shining and see all kinds
Obsessed.
of
Yeah, I know what it's about.
Like this movie proves that the Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing. All that kind. You can do that with a lot of movies. I mean, you can do that with Phantasm, but we all kind of do that like, in this conversation. What Debbie's saying and what Paul's saying, you're looking into that movie and you're finding things, and they're not wrong. Like Stanley Kubrick did not fake the movie landing. I feel very comfortable on a podcast in a public forum stating that and standing by it. But I can't tell you that what Paul said about how he related to it as a boy's story is right or wrong, because that's really what you feel.
Doesn't matter. I understand that. It doesn't matter. That's what he got out of it.
What I didn't get past is like it never connected with me emotionally. Like the worst thing, this is what Debbie was talking about. The worst thing a movie can be for me, the worst thing it can be is boring. I mean, I really had strong feelings about Young Frankenstein. I wasn't bored like this is not a well-made movie. This is trash. I just didn't connect with me at all, and it upset me. And I even wondered, did I feel a little left out? And actually, I didn't. But this is a little movie that did big things, and I kind of, that's the reason that I feel any warmth towards it at all, I guess.
Well, I was just gonna say that when you're watching the movie and you realize that it is just a dream, and that all bets are off. Like Reggie gets the car crashes they get in, that they should be wiped out, or if somebody attacks, everybody gets attacked in this film, like a zombie film. And they're going to be fine for whatever reason, whether it's a dream. Psychologically, you're like, there's no stakes in the film. The guy is
that there's no stakes until the end, other than the fact that people you thought are dead constantly are showing back up again.
Maybe I'm mixing all the sequels and all that, but yes, because that confused me at the end when they're sitting by the fireplace, and Reggie says, "Yeah, your brother died in a car accident."
Well, that's supposed to be jarring. I think that.
Yeah, well, it was. It's like, what? Now you're going, this is all. The whole thing's been a dream. What the hell did I invest all this time for that? It's like Dallas at the end when he comes out of the shower. It's like, what did I do? Why did I?
But see, but then that kind of, if you want to call it the cheap scare at the end, is to double down on it. Is to then make you second guess yourself.
Yeah, but
so it actually has a that actually has a purpose this time. It's not just
let's just say this was the only movie. There were no sequels. Right. Is that a satisfying ending for this film?
For me, it is. Yeah, I actually, though I get things out of the sequels and I enjoy revisiting the characters, I would be perfectly fine if this was a one and done and they never made the sequels. Because I think it kind of has a unique feel to it that they never recaptured in any of the sequels. And
that's true.
That sequel, particularly the next one, Phantasm 2, is in a linear and more structured way a better movie. But part of the problem is that it commits to an interpretation of the first film, that I don't know whether I think is the most satisfying.
Well, 2 ends the same way 1 ends. It ends with somebody gets pulled out a window and he comes back in 3. And you realize it's just, this whole thing is just set up for a dream.
Is a series of events that are coherent. Reggie goes into full Ash mode in number 2.
Full Ash mode, and the kid Michael comes out of the whatever insane asylum, wherever he is, and they hook him up with a woman who's got the same. And they kill her. She's okay.
Well, Debbie,
I love that Reggie can never get laid. That is one of my favorite through lines.
Well, he
No
gets
matter
laid
what
in his
he does,
dreams, though.
He finds like himself with beautiful women, and it just never works out. And I love it. That's
Well,
one of the
he's
things I like
he's
about
87 year old driving an ice cream truck. Jesus,
But that's I mean that's why people learn the guitar, and it never works out.
411.
He can tune alien gateways, but the guitar never gets in the ladies. It's actually a tragic arc, really. If we're going to be honest.
Now you're right. Now psychologically, I know what's going on. All right. So what are our ratings on this one?
Guitar scene.
Wait.
I would certainly do him after it.
Oh my God. So Paul, we rate these as Yippee-Ki-Yay or Yippee-Ki-Nay. Okay. I think we kind of. I don't know. Let's start with Drew.
I'm going to go Yippee-Ki-Nay, but it's not a real strong nay. It's just I don't like it.
Al.
Does that answer the question? I got
Oh,
all five.
look at that.
I got all
Is that
five
one of those
films.
metal cases?
I got all 5 films right here. Ooh.
Oh wow.
What does it mean?
You got some psychology
Well,
going on there.
I mean, I do own my own copy of Young Frankenstein, so that doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying.
Is that so you fit in? Is that why you did that?
No, I got it because it was with all these other Mel Brooks that I love.
Oh, it's in that pack. I got that pack. Yeah. John, what do you got?
Well, before I give you how I feel about this movie, I want to remind our audience to subscribe, hit the notification button, and please share. We really want to expand our audience. I say that every week, and it doesn't seem to be working. In fact, the people on this podcast don't hit like. So I don't expect you to. But anyway.
I do like how calmly you said that, though.
I want to give a real strong Yippee-Ki-Nay. I'm not on the fence on this, okay? This movie sucked.
It sucked people's brains out.
Exactly. Right.
It's no redeeming quality.
All right, Paul, what do you got, Paul?
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Is this the film you've liked the least of all the podcasts?
Well, that's a tough one.
I think Flute is up there.
Spitfire Grill was close. No, I actually like at least Spitfire Grill kept my interest till the end. This movie, it just didn't work for me. Yeah, this is the worst one.
Okay. All right, Paul.
Yippee-ki-yay,
Yeah, we know.
Boy.
I'm gonna give mine now because I know it's Sean. Sean and Debbie, because I think Debbie. I want to hear.
Well, I gotta say it was a torture to watch it. So I would say, at that point would be like this way, no, it would be like that. Nay.
Raise your hand up. I can't see. What do you got?
Yeah, there you go. Yippee-ki-yay.
Okay.
Wait.
But,
when something gets me to think, like the extent of this movie made me think about my own mortality and life in general, and just to pay attention, to go to the cemetery and be there, to feel the feelings of being alive, and then possibly one time I'm going to be dead. I would say yay. You know what I mean? For that, not that I enjoyed the movie process, but the after effects really were helpful in my life.
I think that's legitimate. I mean, your opinion of the Spitfire Grill evolved between the first time you watched it and the second time you watched it. I think
that's legit.
That's good. Yeah,
legit.
But I will say, if you would have told me, because Debbie and I really did, that Debbie would be Yippee-Ki-Yay on this, I would have been shocked. So thank you, baby. Give me a kiss.
Oh,
This is a film I bet you I will watch at least 2 or 3 times before the end of the year.
Oh,
wow.
Every night.
I don't. Okay. All right. Here's my review. My review is Yippee-Ki-May.
Meh?
Because I couldn't stand it as a film. Like, it just made no sense to me. Things were popping in and out, and I get it. But artistically, what he was trying to do, I love the shots of the Hemi engine. I love the shots of the cars, the stunts they did. There's some technical stuff going on here that's pretty good. And the way the sphere was used optically, that wasn't CGI. That somehow they pulled that stuff off using a baseball pitcher to throw it down the hall. I mean, I got to respect that.
Well, this is the same guy who directed The Beastmaster, so.
Oh,
Mark Singer.
With Mark Singer and Lori, what's her name?
Tanya Roberts.
Oh, Tanya Roberts. Woo.
Hey,
yeah.
Vinegar Syndrome is releasing that in 4K in about 2 weeks, so go ahead and pick up a
Beastmaster.
Isn't Rip Torn the villain in that movie too?
Yes. Wow. All right, well, that was okay. Maybe I might. I have to watch number 4 because I've watched them.
Yeah, I
all up to
Definitely
this
watch
point.
number 4, Ralph.
Okay, I'm gonna. Well, Shudder was 1, 2, 1, and 3 and 4 were free. Oh, I'm Shudder. You're paying for Shudder. I had to rent number 2.
The other
I don't know why.
They do a lot with 4 with like with nothing. I think they really advanced the story.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah.
Before I
more nothing than this one had.
Yes.
What's
more
that,
nothing
Sean?
than this one had.
I will say Wojo and Brad couldn't make it today, but they did text us and give us their votes. They hated it.
That's a shock.
That's not surprising.
I'm blown away by that one. I thought they would get all the symbolism about life and death and teenagers and stuff, but no, I guess not. Next week we'll see what happens. Who's doing the film next week? We don't know. Is
it Debbie's turn?
Deborah. Oh boy.
Well, if it's my turn, but I don't know if it is.
We're gonna make it your turn.
Okay. Shoot. What did I say?
You were saying Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride of Frankenstein.
All right. Well,
classic.
Classic film.
That is a classic.
Can we get that colorized, or is that black and white?
I don't think that's ever been colorized.
I don't think
Thank God.
That's a good choice. I can't wait to watch
Excellent
that one.
choice.
Give my opinion.
Victorious in the house.
Yeah.
Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed meeting all you guys. You guys are great. I loved hearing all your opinions. Every opinion is valid to me, and I really enjoyed being part of this. Thank you so much.
Your
I
background is
appreciate you defending the
perfect.
movie. I love that.
Yeah. So,
I had to defend Singing in the Rain to my brother Ralph. Okay.
Hey,
yes,
I love
and
Singing
you
in the Rain.
defended it well.
Can you believe
Singing in the
that
Rain.
somebody didn't like Singing in the Rain?
That we had to defend it.
Wow. Yeah, that's
me,
Now-
and
now
I
that's
defend my
surreal.
defense.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
But can
everybody,
you imagine that same person really liked the counselor?
Include.
the counselor is gonna be
time.
like this one. There's gonna be meanings thrown on the counselor 20 years, 30 years
No,
later.
no,
That's doing. Yes, it
It's not
will.
gonna
That's
happen.
enough. We're not going to do this anymore. The counselor is going to be.
That movie is pure trash.
Okay.
I don't even think the counselor's ever going to come out on 4K.
It was good having you back, Al, for a whole episode.
Yeah.
Al, nice to have you back. I'll see you on the next one for
Oh
the.
yeah, you guys got your first episode tonight, right?
In the Red Productions has another
Very exciting.
podcast we're
Good
putting
luck.
out.
Good luck, you
See how that
guys.
goes. Everybody stay
And remember-
safe.
Remember, all of us, all you viewers out there, definitely watch this twice because just watch John the whole time. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
I
We'll
have
do it
to learn
ISO.
to hide my
ISO
emotions
cam.
more.
We always watch these twice, strangely.
Well, I'd like somebody to watch them at least once. Get it? Watch it once, all the way through. Not just the first 9 minutes, all the way through.
That's a
It's like
reasonable-
Saturday Night Live. The best skits are the last 10 minutes.
Right.
Most famous skits. So, all right, everybody stay safe. Paul, enjoy the lockdown in
Paul, nice
California.
meeting you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.